Well, the U.S. is deploying destroyers and thousands of Marines towards Venezuela as President Trump looks to crack down on cartels and the Maduro regime. They could reportedly reach the country's coast as soon as tomorrow. Here to discuss is Dissident Project speaker and an immigrant from Venezuela, Jorge Galicia, along with PragerU political commentator and Venezuelan political refugee, Franklin Camargo. So great to have you both on. I'm going to start with you, Jorge. What is the reaction of Venezuelans? I know you guys are in close contact with people who are living there right now. Over 70-80% of the country voted for the opposition party against Maduro. How are they feeling in this moment, knowing that these destroyers are coming so close to the Venezuelan coast?
Well, first of all, Rachel, thank you for having me again. I think many people in Venezuela are extremely optimistic. They cannot really be loud about it because they're facing a terrible criminal regime. If they express their gratitude towards the United States government and towards President Trump for the pressure he's adding against Maduro, they're going to face horrible consequences. That's why you don't really see a lot of expressions coming out of Venezuela. But, you know, I have people there. I talk to them. They are happy.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the opposition activists who was holed up in that embassy for over a year before she was rescued. And I asked her, and she said, it's a silent euphoria. And so while they're quietly celebrating what President Trump is doing right now in Venezuela, and frankly, for the whole Western Hemisphere, Franklin, meanwhile, Venezuelans who are living abroad are putting out the most remarkable TikTok, Instagram videos I've ever seen. You're seeing the destroyers coming into the ocean and the planes coming overhead and YMCA playing, and just the euphoria from the dissident community who's abroad is so palpable, and thankful to the administration. Give us more context to that.
Yes, the Venezuelan people recognizes that the Trump administration is probably one of the biggest allies that Venezuelan freedom fighters have had over the last 25 years. Is someone who has recognized that Maduro is not just a threat to South America, it's not just a threat to Venezuelans, but it's also a threat to the American people. And I think this is the most important thing to mention right now. When we talk about Nicolas Maduro, when we talk about the Venezuelan regime, we're not just talking about a government that we dislike or a dictatorship, a soft dictatorship. We're talking about a narco state, a government that produced over 25% of the entire cocaine that is produced in the entire world. It's also a regime that sent Tren de Aragua, the same criminal organization that killed, for example, Laken Riley, or that killed Jocelyn Nungaray. So there is a need for the American people, for the well-being of the American people in the Western Hemisphere, to have a regime change, to stop these cartels. Yeah. But Venezuelans recognize that Trump is an ally, that the U.S. government is probably the biggest hope that we currently have.
Jorge, let's talk a little bit about who else is involved with Nicolas Maduro. It's not just the drug cartels, which is serious, and I appreciate Franklin laying that part out. But it's the Chinese, it's the Iranians. Let's talk about the Chinese, because they made a huge play and got away with a lot of stuff while America was looking in the other direction, towards the Middle East, towards Ukraine. And the Chinese were making their move in our hemisphere, in our backyard. Explain.
Yeah, definitely China is all involved in Venezuela. I remember when I was there, I once went to a military outpost and I was embarrassed because I saw the Chinese flag waving in this military place, where, you know, in a military place in Venezuela, you should only see Venezuelan flags, and that's about it. I saw a Chinese flag, I saw a Cuban flag, an Iranian flag. That doesn't really make sense. So all of these countries are openly operating in Venezuela to harm American interests in the region. And it's such a good news that President Trump is finally taking notice and acting accordingly to stop this.
Well, we're looking at something very historic about to happen. All eyes on Latin America. If Donald Trump succeeds if President Trump succeeds in cleaning up the Western Hemisphere from Maduro and his very nefarious influences with cartels, the Chinese and the Iranians, I think it may be his greatest foreign policy success, really ever. it really impacts us. It's our backyard. So, Franklin, Jorge, thanks for joining us, and we'll be checking back with you as this entire story is just beginning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.